All right, folks, we are back like we never left. Here's another small cap review episode for you. It's been a while since I have made a video. Just has been taking time, really focusing on myself, on my studying, on my craft of trading here. So I got away from making the daily videos, but it is something that I want to get back into. Most days, I think it's good for me, and if I can help even a couple people out there with some trading content. It's worth it in my book. So, just to kind of reset things, what is this channel? What are we even trying to do? This is not a channel where I'm telling you what stocks to buy or trying to give you, yeah, like runners or anything like that. This is a review. We're going to talk about the names that were in play for the day. I'm talking about setups, talking about in-play stocks, talking about risk management. So if you're a new or intermediate trader, you should be able to find quite a bit of value in these videos and just how trading really works. So with that, I'll go ahead and get into some of these names, maybe 3 or 4 that we will talk about today. I'm going to start with SINT, which was the leading gapper. It gapped up 109%. So as always, we'll start with the daily chart. What really stuck out to me on this chart was one, there's so many gaps. Here's a gap, big gap, gap over here. So tons of gaps on this name, which is just kind of odd to see. And then what stuck out the most was this kind of higher low price action that led up to today. So we get the higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. I'm sorry, I keep saying high or low. Lower high. You can tell I'm rusty on these videos. Lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. There we go. And we're all the way back down to all-time lows here and now gapping up. So it's almost like an intraday setup where you have these lower highs all set, price action that comes and takes it out and then fades back. So um, how that played out here is in the pre-market, ultra aggressive straight up move. So this is not really what you want to see if you are wanting to take longs in the name in, once the market opens up. When it goes straight up, it just leaves very little amount of support on the way down. So it can be an easy up, easy down type of situation. We do actually get more consolidation than I would have thought on this name, just because we do have some solid levels, but generally speaking, easy up, easy down. So going into open, we do push and end up opening close to the pre-market highs, a little bit of flag into the open, but we are opening really close to these daily levels. We're less than 15% away from these key levels, kind of the last lower high that's painted on this chart here. So for me, this was a name more to be interested in on the short side, looking for above and below the 670 level. And with 670 being close to 7, $7 would be the risk, or maybe a little above 7. So once you see a move like this where you get the fake breakout above these prior candles and above these daily levels, good place to go ahead and get short. And like I said, risking around $7, because you never want to stop out right in front of a whole dollar. So, I mean, if you were just using this candle to set risk and, you maybe do something like 690, I mean, that's, go ahead, just put it over 7. Because you get stuff like this where it comes up and tests the whole dollar, doesn't even quite make it there, and we get an even stronger rejection. Important to note this decreasing volume up here. If it was going to make a strong move and push back above these levels, it would definitely need to see an increase in the volume, not continually decreasing. So VPA does not line up for a bullish move here. We get the EMAs crossing down here, and then we get this longer consolidation period. So this is where things could, when you have all this building up energy, maybe you can get a move higher, but it is important for me, part of my structure or strategy is using fib lines, not because they are magic, but because they give you a good idea of risk management. So draw these fibs up, and for fibs, 61 to 78 fib is kind of the magic area where you'd like to get interested, maybe enter short if you did not get in here, and risking 100% the highs. So what we actually get here is a really nice bounce up to the 61 fib. It does line up with this trend line here in the morning, just connecting these pre-market highs. And just for a little extra confluence, it would have been ideal for me if it was, again, back up to these 660s, 670s levels. Would make a really nice short, and then we do get, on a fake breakout candle like this, on this elevated volume, super, super bearish signal, especially when we get it back under VWAP, EMAs crossing back down, and we get a very clean fade along the EMAs down to this lower level. And for me, this is kind of ultimate target on this name. Of course, things always can go lower, but a really nice kind of support level here, down towards this base, this low, this last lower high. Keep tripping on that. This last lower high in the structure. So if we go to the 5-minute, let's see how the 5-minute 200 is lining up. So it still actually has quite a way. So maybe this consolidates here, cracks after hours, and ends up getting this 5-minute 200 final target. But yeah, a little bit more time in the day. Hard to say what will happen. Maybe a retest up here, fade back down. But good place to take profits was, like I said, this last lower high level, and you start to see a little bit of momentum, a change in this down only price action. EMA is crossing back up. So yeah, that is SINT so far. We'll go ahead and move on to the next name. INBS. Whoa, it's like a Pink Floyd show. A lot of lines, a lot of lights. I'm taking all these off. Hold on, bear with me, and we can put these back on as we go. Get out of here. All right. Actually, we'll take that off too. All right. Daily chart on this one. Let's see what we got. All right, so a couple really obvious levels down here at this base prior. And then we have a daily zone here coming off of this pivot, retested up here. So kind of these three levels are the main ones for me. In terms of prior price action, this one shows a history of gap and spike. You have gap, spike, even have a gap spike here, gap and spike here. So it's good to just take the hint from these names going into the day. Is it one that always is gap and crap? Is it always gap and spike? Does it have a mix of the behaviors? What has it done recently? Prior levels of interest. If this was going to be a really strong name and pushing up into these wicks, these levels that these big gap days have made, I would go in and I would take the VWAP from these days and map those out just to see where a lot of the majority of the volume or the average volume is on those names. But we did not quite get as strong of a name, and we do get a little bit of a gap and spike into the 200. I don't know. This is a EMA, SMA, one of them. I got one of them's the EMA and one of them's the SMA, but it's one of the 200s on this thing. You can tell by the way I'm talking about it. It is not super important to me, but something definitely to keep note of. Knowing that the 200 is in line with this, almost $3 whole level is important. So going into the day, I really liked the pre-market structure on this name because like the daily chart we had for SINT, we have lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, and I had a trend line going like this in the pre-market. We'll just leave it white. So we get a trend line break off of a daily level here at 240. Where do we get that from? Just down here, these two pivots. So really nice area on the chart that it's bouncing off of, breaks the trend line. And the most important thing for me, and the reason that I was more interested in this name than any other name, was the volume into the open. Here in the pre-market, we had very, very little volume even on this giant spike, which was at 4 a.m. That's a good thing to note. I have a tag in my notebook where, just pop it up as example. One of the tags in here that I have for some of these names is 4 a.m. pop, because that is a key characteristic on these names. Usually not the most bullish factor, kind of like we saw on SINT where it was up only, kind of the same kind of setup. or mentality there with the up only move. So we do get this long consolidation, dip below it, and now we are ramping back up. It's really key to take note of these, important liquidity levels, these higher or these lower highs. God damn, these lower highs on this thing here, here, here. So it's logical. I mean, you want a strong stock. It's going to go over pre-market highs before it fails. But when you get this kind of deep not even deep, this longer consolidation, this hesitation, this lack of follow through on this name as we do a fake breakout of these levels. It's a great place to take profits, and actually that's what I did on this name. So I guess, yeah, I'll talk about it in terms of my trade. So here at the open, like I said, we get the trend line break, the EMA is crossing back up off of this key level. I'm not much of a pre-market trader. In fact, I usually don't even like to trade in the first 10 minutes. A lot of times you get um, the best opportunities of the day, or after the first 10 minutes. Not always the case. There are times when you have to get in stuff very early, but this will be another example of where you could have waited and had a more plus EV entry on the name. So I did chase a little bit this little blue square. This is a 2-minute chart, so if you pull it up on the 1 minute, it's a little bit more clear. Kind of chased it up into VWAP, which is really not a good move, especially on a Monday morning. Not really how I wanted to start the week, but I did like the volume. We're churning, 1 million shares a minute. One thing I look for is the ratio of volume in the pre-market to what you get in the first hour of the day. With 4 to 1, this will we'll do the whole thing. It's a full instructional today. So here we have 14.5 million in the pre-market. And then if we just include that, draw out the first hour, we are now at 64. So over 3 to 1 ratio, which is a really good sign that there's going to be some bullish price action on the day, at least some opportunities to make some money on the long side. Of course, when you measure it out, it's already done. So you have to just be very aware of how much volume you have coming in and how much you had in the pre-market. So pretty much right away after the first 6 minutes of the day, it's like, okay, 4 to 1 volume ratio, very, very attainable on this name. So we get a push up into this daily zone here, and then a aggressive pullback. Thing to note here, this decreasing volume. That's really what you want to see on this pullback. And shout out J Trader. These blue lines here are J lines. The white is the 50 EMA. So we do get a hold of the J lines here. So this is what I meant when you can get a same price entry but higher EV later in the morning after the first 10 minutes. You get this really nice pullback to these levels. So for me, what I'd be looking for, had I not already been in the name, is a pullback and an increase in volume. So we get the pullback, then right here is where we start to get a churn and an increase of the volume. So, again, same price that we could have had, or you can just take maybe this higher low and, to talk about to talk about the risk management part, you're buying here under the 1 minute 8, you're risking 3%. And like I said, you're ideally wanting these pre-market highs, but you know that this is already in. We could just get fake breakouts, which we do end up getting right to the $3 whole level. So this ends up being 15%, which is not the best range, but still a 5 to 1 ratio from what you are risking. So on a, I would say, pretty high probability setup. So worth taking in my book. I ended up selling some here right after the fake breakout. Really did not like that. Wanted continuation. Um, it's okay, maybe 1 minute of it, but once we started getting this longer pause, um, no real ramp in volume. The time the volume does come in, we reject perfectly off the 294 level. Went ahead and took more profits, and then got stopped out the last quarter of my position, break even. Things to look at here on the 2-minute. Again, EMA is crossing down, and done from there. They don't really cross back up until we get some more, a move higher in the range. This is actually kind of playing out just pretty well in terms of the levels that you could have drawn out. This is from the after hours move here. Serves as a good base. This one is, if I'm not mistaken, I was looking at it before, in line with the 5-minute. Yep, 200. So really nice place to take profits here if you were going to play this off of these levels. And also, this is probably one of the more important things. Draw those fibs out. Let's see what we have. Make them orange. Right here, we have the 61 fib, which again is one of the key ones, 61.78, lining up perfectly with this 294 daily level. So if I'm short only trader, if I'm only going to be playing names to the short side, I am thinking it needs to come up to at least 290, 293 or 294, $3 whole level, see if break out a fail back below these levels, and then fade it back down. So really nice play to the short side, and understanding the short side helps your long game. Understanding the long side helps your short game. So it's always good to stay in tune with both of those setups, because I had this drawn out and in this, in this trade hoping for continuation to the long side, but understanding that if I wanted to be short, I would be selling here. So I will go ahead and sell my, from my buys as well. So that's this name. It looks like this is a strong candidate to close at the lows, maybe this 177 level down here. Maybe this anywhere down here in the zone. Maybe $2, 177. A good place for it to end up here. So moving on from that name. Oh, and we also had a nice trend line break here. But anyway, uh, more lines, more lines, more lines. TNXP, pure gap and crap name. Now this one was not perfect to the short side, just because it did not quite make it high enough up in this range in the open hours. I'm sure there's plenty of shorts that tried to chase this to the downside. Maybe some of them got squeezed out here, at least got a little bit nervous, but this trend line going downwards from the pre-market ends up holding strong. Before we get ahead of ourselves, let's look at the daily chart. I gotta make it small so I can scroll this thing and it doesn't take a whole minute. All right. And I will go ahead and take these fibs off, but keep in mind, we only make the bounce up to the 50 fib in the opening price here on these. So not quite, like I said, a perfect play to the short side. So what do we have? Wow, this thing looks like shit. That's what we have. We have down only on this name. I mean, how long has this even been going on? A long, long time. A long, long time. So you know that this name is just an absolute turd. All right, no other way to put it. So when it's like this, there's really not a ton you can gain from the daily chart, because these levels are just so far up on it, just because it's only going down and not creating these bases, these wicks that make good key levels. So for this, I really only had this daily gap as the only levels that were in play, and then what you can get from the pre-market. So maybe you could, a little hindsight on this line, but maybe you're going to draw something like, down to this wick, or maybe you tighten it up, have it up here. That serves as a decent base here at the open, but and also good resistance on the way back down. But yeah, so not a ton you can get from the daily charts, all intraday price action here. And looking at the volume, you might be like, oh, wow, this, in terms of the volume ratio, this looks really good. It has, over 5 million shares. But keep in mind, this is a stock that is 20 cents. So, 5 million shares on a 20-cent stock is not the same as 5 million shares on a stock over $1. So, dollar volume wise, not the highest. Let's look at the volume ratio on this name. Let's see. So we have 85, we'll call it. And then in the first hour, 160. So not even a 2-to-1 volume ratio on this. So yes, big number over here for how many shares per 2-minute candle, but dollar volume, not that high, and relative to what it traded in the pre-market, not that high. So again, you get another fake breakout of these opening price levels along with this downtrend line, and it is done from there. EMA is crossing negative and stays crossing negative. This was actually a sick fade on this if you're able to join in. Yeah, 25% on that. Pretty nice for a name that really didn't gap up crazy. It gapped up 61% and did not make it as high up in the range as you would have liked. So kind of a chaser's name on it, but you would get rewarded in this case for following trend. What else did I want to go over? I know Wheeler. There felt like there was another one. Yeah, BNRG. So this one's interesting because it was a recent runner. It's kind of continuing this trend. Gap, give it all back. Spike, give it all back. And then today, we'll see. We'll see if it's going to hold on to it or give it all back. But nonetheless, the good days, you do get good range on them. So how could this be on radar? How could you trade it? It was on the gappers list at least one point. Yeah, down here. Oh, nope, don't do that. Get this out of here. What did it gap up? 14%. So really not a lot, but at least it was trading volume in the pre-market, and this spike here puts it on the radar. Couple key levels, I guess probably best to use. I'll use 30-minute on this. You had the high a day here, which was respected on this day, and then also had this high a day plotted out as well. VWAPs from these 2 days on there as well. And yeah, just generally speaking, you can tell that the volume, a lot of volume's traded up here, close to the 175 level and a little bit below. So kind of ultimate targets, or at least important area to see how it would have reacted if it made it there, but clearly not enough strength. For me, key trend line going into open, and then kind of this retest of this whole dollar level, this 103. So from here, you can kind of start to build a thesis. I'm not going to be interested in it off of this prior higher day level when we're opening kind of below it. Then we do get a fake breakout. So for me, definitely got to wait till it breaks the trend line, starts reversing trend here before you even start to get interested. So you get it back over the trend line here, back on this level, and then you start to get a build of the volume. Maybe if we go to 1 minute, this is going to be even more clear for us. Maybe. Maybe I'd have to zoom super in for it. So what you do see though on down here is you start to get this increase in volume coming off of this level. So maybe you start to build a thesis in here, risking off of this low. Again, pretty tight risk, less than 5%, and obvious target above the pre-market high. So 5 to 35, 7 to 1 ratio you're looking at there. And VPA is actually super nice on this one because you get this ramping volume, this decreasing volume here on this little flag before, and then on the strongest volume of the day, we are breaking through key levels. We're breaking through this prior high a day, breaking through opening highs, and we are up towards these, multiple areas of interest around 130. Where do we get those from? Back here on the daily chart, pivot, easy to do. So we're back up here by these key levels, and we get a nice volume decrease, a nice step down. Let's see what it looks like on the 5. Not a super clear, 5-minute flag, but the characteristics are there where you get this decreasing volume. Are the J lines in play? Let's take a look. Yes, they are. Wonderful dip right to the J lines. Shout out J Trader. And you also have this prior area of interest here at 118. So nice confluence here at this level. Once you start to see it building off of there, maybe you are interested in a trade off the J line. So from here, you know that we will have to have strong volume to break through this kind of intraday consolidation high, and that is what we get here into the highs. Then we get hallmark sign, high a day volume, high a day price, bullish, or I'm sorry, bearish candle pattern. So with that, it is kind of all done in my book. EMA's crossed down and trending back downwards. Daily history of giving back all the gains. So my money would be on this fading back off, but we will see on that. So again, the trade here, double bottom, increasing volume after the trend line break, EMAs crossing up, or J lines and prior area of interest test, risking these lows. So two areas where you could really have some tight risk reward, and even if you get this later entry, still looking at over 20% on the return. So last name, how long have we been going? 25 minutes. All right, this is longer than I thought. I need some water. Whaler will be the last name that we do. So this is a name that was probably on everyone's radar as it had been a multi-day runner. Um, Today, much less volume, you can see, than the prior days. So definitely something to note and be wary of, but there was a very key level that was playing out today that I was watching as well. So here is the previous, it started as a what I would just call a no gap runner, which means just what you think it means, no gap, but it runs. And then it had a nice day two gap up. Um, it gave opportunities long and short, but mainly mainly to the long side here, where you get this nice kind of bounce towards this prior high of day, and then a squeeze out into the end of the day over this pre-market consolidation level, then a deep fade all the way back. So for me, the only level that is in play is this day one high of day, since we never got there on the day two gap up. So with this, get a really, really nice setup. So you get this double bottom, ends up being a triple bottom off of this. And this name has really nice range. It had, even on the chart where you're like, okay, it's only a couple candles, it doesn't look that big, but from these lows, it's over 25% up to view up. So it could have been really nice. Just want to point out the importance of the prior high of day on setups like this. And you could have had a really, really nice bounce trade on it, whether you're playing the EMA cross up over here off of the double bottom, playing the zone, risking the lows. Let's see in terms of risk reward, or we're talking even if you have a not ideal entry, risking 5%, making 20%, 4-1. Pretty solid. So handful of names, even a slower day like today, I think a lot of people would be like, oh, there wasn't a lot going, there wasn't a lot of opportunities to the upside. There are, if you get those tight entries where you can really maximize the risk to reward opportunities on multiple names today. So sorry today's video was not perfect. I kind of went longer than I originally planned, but I don't want to put too much foreplanning into this. I just wanted to make sure I made the video and get back on track this way. So again, if you're looking for discussions on small cap names, looking for lessons on finding names in play, risk management, any of that stuff, feel free to stick around. I hope to be making these videos just about every day. And any questions, any tickers, anything like that, feel free to leave them below. But yeah, I'm Dan, and appreciate you stopping by. Catch you guys tomorrow.